Welcome back to Walking with Sai. Today we're talking about what is possibly the hardest job on the planet, parenting. And to discuss this very layered and complicated subject, we have Ravindra Madhudi with us. Bhaiya, you're a spiritual leader and you're a father. You have a 14-year-old son. You have seen so many parents struggle, so many kids struggle. So you perhaps have a unique vantage point from where you can address this. So, what do you think is the role of a parent in a child's life?
The subject which you have chosen is parenting, and it's a very difficult subject to talk about in a limited period of time because that covers the whole 9 yards. Now, we will talk about parenting from a child's point of view. Parenting from the child's point of view is more important to understand rather than the parent's point of view because parents, whatever they are trying to do, is only to give a good life and a good upbringing to the child. In our society, parents establish a sense of ownership on children. But what really is important is children should establish a sense of belongingness to the parents. The other thing is, parents have this concept, especially when the children are growing up or grown up. We have done so much for you. Yes, point well taken, respected. But don't you think having brought these children to this world, it is our fundamental responsibility as parents to do what we have done? Does not give the children the right to have this sense of entitlement. Second, stop saying you don't know what is good for you, you are way too young, you don't know anything about the world, you know nothing, I will tell you. No. Generation after generation, children are more worldly wise than the parents. When you disrespect the child and say that you do not know, I know. Any relationship, even relationship between the parents and children, it has to have the lace, so it has to be laced with respect. Respect a child's opinion. Hear the child out. Reason with the child. Navigate the child. If there is some small lacuna or shortcomings, let there be a small fall, right? So that they learn. Don't try to be possessive about your children. The other point, if the children fear parents, whom will they confide in? How can they grow up fearlessly? You are essentially straining your relationship. Induction of fear, inducing fear in child's heart is the worst thing you can do, and the previous generations are proud of it. How disgusting. The other extreme, giving away everything to the children, overdoing and spoiling. So parenting is is something which is a very balanced walk. We have to set an example and live a righteous life ourselves. Children capture everything from the parents very quickly. The world's future is in the hands of the parents, not just the child's future. So, parenting is a very vast subject. These are 3 4 points where we should apply caution, no sense of ownership, no inducing fear, not allowing indulgences, not to rule over their life.
Bhaiya, at times we notice how there are patterns that keep repeating within families from generation to generation. For some reason, they are not able to break these patterns. They teach children to do the same things that didn't work for them only, that came in the way of their own happiness and health and well being. Sometimes society is given as a reason for this, that अरे हम society में रहते हैं ये तो करना ही पड़ेगा. And I really sympathize with parents a lot because it is a really tough job to stand up to society, to protect their kids from pressures and conditioning. How do you suggest they do that?
Understand the society or the, relatives, friends, or whatever. They are not going to define the happiness of your child. Stop comparing your child with somebody else, neither to establish superiority or to establish inferiority. जैसे आप कहते हो शर्मा जी का लड़का देखो कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच गया. Stop comparing. That's the worst thing. Comparison is the biggest crime. Each child is unique. This comparison doesn't happen only by the parents. It is done at every level. Schools are the places which are the most traumatizing places for most of the children. Most of the schools. It's traumatizing. As a child, I've gone through that trauma in the school. My son has gone through that trauma in the school. Comparison. And if you see in some of the schools, or most of the schools, if you have seen, they have special classes for children who are not bright academically. So they have segregations in the classroom. 10 are extremely bright, so they are given special education. And people who, the children who are, duds basically, that's how they are branded. See the complexes which the children will develop in their mind. That is a crime. The government or the authorities have to take swift action on it because they are causing enormous psychological ill health, traumatizing experience for the children. The whole ecosystem of education is messed up. We have all been victims of it from our childhood. The schools which I went to, there was always comparison. There is one out of 100 students, if there are two or three bright students, every other student will look at that girl, how bright she is, learn something from her. Why? I mean, the whole society is messed up, upbringing is messed up, and it is literally a psychological warfare unleashed against children. It's the worst thing to happen, but yes, we are victims of it. That's a reality we have to accept. As much as possible, parents have to stop comparing children. See, the life is ever evolving. Somebody might not be very good in academics, but might be very successful in business. It has happened, I have seen it. And when the child is doing very well, parents are proud. Something goes wrong, they start abusing. So the whole upbringing, the whole society is messed up.
Bhaiya, you're very right about how when something goes right and the kid is successful, parents are very proud and show them off. And when something goes wrong in the journey, during the process, during the learning phase, parents are very quick to point out your mistakes and that I told you so. It can get very discouraging, demoralizing in an already pretty hostile world. And parents often are their kids' biggest critics. Sometimes this causes for the battle to be lost before it even begins. So, how do you protect your kids and steer them the right way without discouraging them, demoralizing them?
So there is a difference, fundamental difference between a critic and a criticizer. You can always be a critic, and you say you critic is someone who will analyze the facts as they are and then give a very unbiased, honest opinion, devoid of any bias, without any preconceived notion. That is fine. But criticizer is one who will criticize no matter what. That's very unhealthy. Now, parents more often they criticize. The fear of failure is stemming within the house, within the family, by the parents. Disappointing parents is the biggest thing. This whole ecosystem, our society, the way it is functioning is extremely unhealthy. Children are growing up in absolute fear, complexes, unhealthy practices when they grow up that reflects on their personality. लोग क्या कहेंगे, what will people say, what will society say, do this, don't do this, direct, indirect, influencing. So we are all in the clutches of our parents. You stand with your child and say that, look, no matter what you do, follow your heart. This is what I feel is good for you, but you tell me what you feel is good for you. No matter what, even if you go wrong, doesn't matter. I'm always there. You come back to me. That is like establishing a sense of confidence in the children. तुम जाओगे, you do this, you'll be a failure. I'm telling you this, listen to me, otherwise this is going to happen. You're going to fall flat on your face, and so inducing that fear, that is wrong. Even if for a moment the child fails, then instead of saying, I told you so, you would go through this, you will be a failure, but instead of it, it's okay, fine, you failed. Make as many attempts as possible till you succeed. I am always there. Little change in our approach to upbringing will change the whole psyche of the child. When the child becomes an adult, gets married, has children, the way they bring up their children changes. The change has to start now. It is imminent. It is very important. So that's a biggest challenge the society is facing now. The whole society will change if the household changes. The change has to come from within.
Yeah, to circle back to something you said before, every child is different, has different capabilities. I have seen many people in the spiritual world who are like in their 50s, are fully grown, and yet they have memories that when I was young, I was always spiritual. I was always connected to God, but my family didn't nurture that or didn't approve of that. I'm sure you have for sure heard this that मैं बचपन से ही भगवान में बिलीव करता था, मैं बचपन से ही स्पिरिचुअल था, but I wasn't allowed to explore that path. A lot of kids are different. Some are spiritual, some are artistic, some are academic and therefore are labeled as uncool or nerds. But how do you suggest people raise, nurture kids who are different?
I would say that they are not different, they are unique. I would prefer to call some children are spiritually inclined from their birth. Some children tend to lean towards artistic things like creative. This whole thing needs a lot of intervention, lot of churning. Children who have spiritual bent of mind, let them be. Children who have artistic approach, let them be. Whatever you want to do, be on the top. Target to be at the top. Not in comparison on your own vertical. I feel that interest is important, whether in spirituality or physics, doesn't make a difference. Wherever the interest lies is where we are supposed to navigate our children. Just to tell you this, we are like the catamarans. Catamarans are small boats and ships. There is a big ship which is docked at the port. Before it takes a sail into the high seas, these catamarans navigate the ship and push the ship to the high seas, and the ship sets its sail. Likewise, the parents are.
Point and metaphor well taken. What do you do when parents themselves have so much unprocessed trauma, suppressed emotions, like depression, anxiety? These things are so common today.
True. If you ask any psychiatrist or a psychologist or any, emotional counselor, first thing they'll ask is, how was your childhood? It is a reflection of their upbringing. Most of the traumatizing experiences or half of the traumatizing experiences are childhood experiences. If a child, let's say 2, 3 generations ago or 4 generations ago, a child is not in a position to approach the parents out of fear. I can't speak to my father, I'm scared. Can't speak to my mother. That is where the problem has begun. So, what is required now is for the parents who themselves are traumatized, who themselves lack clarity, they are pushing their upbringing on their children. They need to shaken up. I might again circle back to that spiritual aspect of everything. But my take is addressing this is mainly in the hands of spiritual and religious leaders. First responsibility is in their hands. Who is responsible for moral upkeeping of the society? Spiritual leaders and gurus and religious leaders. For example, Sunday Mass in a church, at a church, have a lecture on parenting. Tell the gathering that you shall not henceforth induce fear in the hearts of your children. You will be friends with them. You will listen to them. Whatever way and manner, and on Friday namaz, you tell the gathering that be a friendly figure to your children, be a good father. They also have a thought, hear them out. Or any temple or religious gathering, satsangs, these dharma gurus, if they can imbibe this, that bachon ko sambhalo. Tell them how to be. It is the responsibility of the religious leaders. It is the responsibility of spiritual masters to counsel the parents on how to bring up the children. I want to broach another subject. How many juvenile crimes are happening in India or in the world? There is unimaginable amount of crime against children, by children. Where is it all stemming out of? The society has a guiding light or a force which is called the religion and the spirituality. It should start from there. The famous, very infamous Nirbhaya rape case we know of. So painful, was one of the accused was a juvenile. Where did it go wrong? In the upbringing. No value system. Parents don't have it. Where will the children get? So, all these things you can't blame the government. You can't ask the judiciary to look into. You can't ask the administration to look into. They are all functioning, governing establishments. These things are more so of very domestic, religious, spiritual interference is a must. The spiritual leaders and the religious leaders have to take up this subject as a social evil, wrong parenting, which is a cause of all the miseries in our society. First thing what is required is to counsel the parents and then the children. Trying to counsel the children is just to handle the symptoms, but the cause is somewhere else. First, you handle the parents. Parents will only complain about their children. They are proud, half of them, but half of them will only complain about the children. So the parents needs to be taken care first, then the children.
Can we expect Saipan to come up with a program or a course on this?
Why not? Why not? A discussion, a Chintan Manthan we will have, and we will invite all the parents, maybe involve some schools and take the message, and then, yes, why not, of course. It's required at every strate of the society. It is required.
Amazing. Really, really praying that good things come out of it and we can break awful generational cycles. Thank you so much, Bhaiya. Really appreciate your time and wisdom. We hope you got good things out of the chat. See you in the next one.